In this session, we will discuss about summary measures. First of all, we will look about what is meant by summary measures. Summary measures, or we are simply saying in statistics as the summary statistics, those are which summarize and provide information about your sample data. In generally, we are collecting data. Therefore, after collecting data, we have discussed what are the methods that we can apply for the preparation of data for a suitable analysis. Therefore, now we are pay our attention to the summary measures. It is because now we are going to summarize our data sets, and then we are going to provide some information regarding or based on the sample data. And when we are going to discuss about the summary measures, or we are saying summary statistics, those will fall into three main categories. The first one is the measure of location. In here, we can say it as the central tendency measure of location. Another term is central tendency, and then we can categorize the second category as measures of spread. It means simply it is quite like measures of variation, and the third category is the measures of shape. Therefore, in these sessions, we will going to discuss about these three categories. First, we will discuss about measures of location, or measures which can be used for central tendency, identification of central tendency, and then we will discuss about the measures of variation, or simply it is quite giving information regarding the spread of data set, and then we will look about the measures of the shape of the data set. Okay. If you summarize the summary measures, if you have mm, use a summarized way for these three categories, then we can uh, categorize the summary statistics in this manner. The summary measures can be first divided into three categories: central tendency, the measures we use to identify central tendency, and the measures that we can use for identification of variation, and then measures that you can identify for the shape of a data set or distribution. Then central tendency, under central tendency we will discuss about the mean under the arithmetic mean, and then median, mode, geometric mean, and quartiles will be discussed under central tendency. And for the measures that we are discussing for variation would be range, interquartile range, variance, standard deviation, and the coefficient of variation. Then the measures that we are used to identify the shape would be skewness, as well as we will discuss about the curtices also in these sessions. First, we will discuss about the measures of location, central tendency. Measures of location tell us where your data set is centered, or where a trend lies. It means that simply if you have given a data set, and once you have obtained it in an sorted way, it means that in the ordered way, ascending order or descending order, by sorting a data set, it means that it is at the preparation of data set level. Then after preparing a data set, then if you need to identify how your data behaves, where is the center point, and what are the points that I can identify as the locations, then those things will be discussed under these measures of location. And these would be this would be actually the measures of location that we can use. Arithmetic mean, simply we are saying it as the average. Then another type of mean, geometric mean, it is used to identify with the interest, it is actually with the interest rates and other types of growth. Therefore it is normally we are using this geometric mean if you are going to do some calculations regarding interest rates, as well as now think about if there is any exponential growth like that. Therefore in such situations you can use the geometric mean. Then the trimmed mean is again another concept which comes under mean, but if you are dealing with this trimmed mean, then what you have to do is, first of all, you have to exclude the outliers. We'll see how we can identify the outliers also in these sessions, and therefore after excluding or after removing the outliers, we can go for a calculation for trimmed mean. The next type of measures of location or measure used for central tendency is the median, and median is said to be the middle of a data set. The middle point or the midpoint of the data set is said to be the median. And another measure used to identify central tendency would be the mode. Mode is the most commonly appearing value in a distribution. Therefore, these are the things that we can, in general, these are the measures that we are used to identify the measures of locations. Now we will discuss about these cases one by one. The first measure that I am considering to identify the measure of location or for central tendency is the arithmetic mean. Even though this is named as the arithmetic mean, in the practical situations, we are normally using this as the average value. In the day-to-day life, we are not going to say it as the arithmetic mean. Once we are applying this technique in the day-to-day life, normally we are using this term average, but the technical term is actual technical term would be the arithmetic mean. And sometimes rather than saying this as arithmetic mean, simply we used to say this as the mean value. If you see about the mean value, the mean is the average value of a set. It is the average of a set of numbers, and we all are aware about how to calculate average, but we will see how we can do it. And but the next thing I have to tell you is when we are using the arithmetic mean, then it can be used with both discrete data as well as for the continuous data. We have already learned about these cases in the previous sessions. What is discrete type of data and what is continuous type of data. Then if you are using the arithmetic mean, then mean can be applied for discrete as well as for the continuous type data. But anyhow, most of the time we are using this with for the continuous data, and but in the situations it is quite okay to use with the discrete type of data. And when we are going to calculate the arithmetic mean, it can be again divided into three subcategories. Arithmetic mean can be again divided into three subcategories. The first one is the simple arithmetic mean, and the next one is the weighted arithmetic mean, and third one would be the combined arithmetic mean. In here, first of all, we will look about the simple arithmetic mean. When in general we are using the term mean, average, arithmetic mean. In simply, those are the terms that we use to denote this simple arithmetic mean. We are using several words to denote this simple arithmetic mean. In general, we are using this technique, simple arithmetic mean. That is what we are defining as average value, mean value, or the arithmetic mean. Then to calculate the simple arithmetic mean, what you can use is you can get the summation of the measurements. If you have, now think about if you are having set of observation. As an example, I will say it is 1, 2, 2, 5, 7, 10, 11, 13. Now what you have to do to obtain the simple arithmetic mean, first of all, we need to take the summation of all of these values. There are now 8 values together. Therefore, first of all, we need to take the summation of these set of values, and then what you have to do is you have to divide it by the number of measures. If you have used 8 values to get the summation, then summation has to be divided by 8. Therefore, in simply we can say mean is equal to summation of measurements divided by number of measurements. And we are using these notations to denote the sample mean and population mean. Population mean is in generally denoted by the notation mu. Mu is used to denote the population mean, while x bar is used to denote the sample mean. To calculate this sample mean or population mean, we can simply use this as summation of x. It means that sum of the measurements has to be divided by the number of observations we have considered. Then when we are going to calculate the simple arithmetic mean, in the last session we have learned about what is a thing called group data, and we will categorize another technique for individual data. When we are going to calculate the simple arithmetic for individual data, what you can simply do is you can simply add the observations together or add the measurements together, and it has to be divided by n, where n is the number of observation or the number of measurements. And we can say this is the equation which we can use for calculation of simple arithmetic mean for individual data. It is for the individual data. Since we have considered for n number of observations, then we can say it is x1 plus x2 plus x3 up to xn divided by simple n. And when you are writing this, then it can be show using a mathematical form. Then this can be write like as the summation of xi, where I goes from 1 to n divided by n, where n is the uh, number of observation and xi is the ith observed value. If you are having individual data as an example, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, those are individual values. But what we can do for group data is, if the data is given in the group data format, it means that if they have categorized it as an example, here we may have x value and the frequency value in the next column. As an example, now think about this set of data. You are observed value 1, 5, 7 and 9. You have observed 2 nines were there, 3 fives were there, 1 7 was there, and 4 nines were there. Then if you ask to calculate a mean value or simple arithmetic mean for this set of data, what you can do is, first of all, you can take the multiplication of these two. It means that you can take the fx value, f times x value. Here frequency has to be multiplied with the value of x. Therefore, here you can say it as 2 times 1, then 5 times 3, 7 times 1, and 9 times 4. Likewise, you can take these fx values. Then for each ith value, you have to obtain fi. It is now denoted if you have n number of categories. Here totally n number of categories, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Here n is 4. Therefore, if you are having n number of categories, then you can use this equation for calculation of arithmetic mean for group data. Then the arithmetic mean can be obtained using frequency multiplied by the relevant observation. Then you have to do it for all the number of observation, and you have to get the summation. Then it has to be divided by the total frequency. It means that here you have to get the summation of these values. This is in here you will get the summation of f5 values. Here, if you are considering in the second column, not in the third column, in here you will get the summation of f5 values. Here you will get the summation of f5 values, and in the third column now you will get the summation of f5 xi values. Since you have already identified multiplication of frequency in the x value, then you have obtained this quantity fx. That is how you are obtaining simple arithmetic mean for group data. Okay. This is one example. I have two example. One is for individual data, and the second one is for calculation for group data. In the first one, here they have just given student ID numbers only. Simply we can say there were 10 students, and the person has obtained the marks that the student has obtained for their examination. Therefore, if I brief about the first data set, it is quite saying first student has obtained 40 marks, second student 50 marks, third student 55 marks. Likewise, 10th student has obtained 48 marks. If I ask to calculate the mean value for this set of data, for the first one, what we can do here to get the mean value, we can do it as summation of xi values, then divide by n. Therefore, what we can do is, first of all, we need to get the summation of these data. It means that we have to add 40 plus 50 plus 55 plus 78 plus 58 plus 60 plus 73 plus 35 plus 43 plus 48. Then you may get the total as, if you add these 10 values, then you may get the total as 540. Means you need to add all these 10 values together, and now you can see all together we have considered 10 values, therefore it has to be divided by 10. Therefore here you may get the value as 54. Therefore this is how we are calculating the simple arithmetic mean for individual data. And the next one is actually, it is for the um, group set of data. Now you can see that in the first group it is from 100 to 199. Then next one is for 200 to 299. Likewise 700 to 799 you are having the values. Then what we can do is, here now you can see the, here we are having the x value, and the number of stops would be the f value. Here x and f value should be like this. But when we come to this x value, here you can see that it is not a single value, it is quite given as a range. Therefore if you have given the data, the group data set in this manner, it is quite like the given x values are as a range, then first of all you have to identify a midpoint of this set of data. Therefore for each category, first of all you have to identify the midpoint which represent or which is suitable for the set of or the set of data in the given. And therefore if I identify the, for the first one, you can identify the class boundaries, and then you can identify the first midpoint value would be 149.5. Then for the next category you can take this as 249.9, then 349.9. Likewise up to this category you can get the value, it is 749.9. Now you can say this is your new x values. Now you can omit this set of data, therefore no need to worry about this set of data hereafter. It is because now these ranges has converted to a value, a generalized value which denotes the set of values. Therefore now what you can do is, as the next step, you have to multiply these two columns. The x value, here you may have x value, and then you are having the f value. Thereafter you can obtain a column called fx. It means fx is multiplication of f value with x value. Therefore as an example, if I multiply this first value, it gives the 1495. It is 1495. If I multiply the um, here this value should be 0.5, not 9. Then if you multiply the second value, then 249.5 has to be multiplied with now 18. Then this value gives you the value as 4491. Likewise, if you multiply the next value, it is 349.5. Now you have to multiply it by the value 20. Once you multiply these two quantities, then you will get the value as 6990. And you can do the same thing for until you are getting it for, you have to obtain the values for the all these points. That likewise you can get the last point value as 749.5. You have to multiply it with 18, gives the value as 13,491. These are the values that you may get. Therefore now what you can do is, you can identify the value, or you can simply identify the value for x bar. To obtain the value for x bar, what you can do is, you can use the equation. The equation says that you have to get the summation of x bar. You have to get the summation of x get the summation of f I x I. In here I will take it as summation of fx, and it has to be divided by summation of f. Then to get this value, what you can do is you can add the values which is stated in this row. You have identified the fx values, then you have to get the summation of these values at this point, and then it has to be divided by the total number of observation in here. You can get the summation of f as by getting the value for this 10 plus 18 plus 20 plus 26, likewise up to, if you get the summation of this set of values, then it can be now considered as the value that comes to this point. And if you consider about this set of value, now it can be said to be the value which is coming under sigma fx. Now you can perform the calculation. It is by the division. Summation of fx has to be divided by summation of f, then it will give you the final result for x bar. Using this calculation, you can simply calculate the value for x bar for group data. Now we will look about the next part. It is the weighted arithmetic mean. In some cases, we need the relative importance of the items in the distribution where it is not the same for all. As an example, now think about if you are going to make some expenditure. If you are going to make some expenditure and you may identify the categories, then it means that the first category that we all are preferring would be food. It's because we are doing all these things to live. Then we need food. Then we can say it is for the. Then we can say it is for the transport. Then we can allocate some for medicine, means that for the medical purposes. Then the next thing we can, it is for the clothing, and then next one would be some other category, maybe miscellaneous. Therefore, when we are using or when we are expanding the things, then as the first priority, we are giving the priority for food. Then the next priority may be it is for the transport. It may be for your car, or just add fuels to your car, or for your vehicle, or any public transport if you're using. Then you may say that okay, my next priority is transport. Then uh, my third priority gives for clothes, and I may give my fourth priority to medical. Therefore, if this is your priority, then this is quite like the relative importance. Therefore, it means that in simply you can say that food is the most important thing for me. And some if you say that if you categorize this as one, then you may say that okay, medicine is the most important thing for me. Therefore, likewise, it would be, there would be relative importance for some cases. Therefore, in such cases, rather than using the simple arithmetic mean, this weighted arithmetic mean would be a very good method for identification of average value. Therefore, according to the relative importance of the items, we can apply the weights. Therefore, the weightages in here are not as say previous method we did not deal with any weightages, but once we come to this weighted arithmetic mean, then we have to use the weightages. Therefore, when we are using the weightages, then this has to be applied for the data set according to their relative importance. Therefore, simply we can say that if it has a high priority, then we have to give more weight on it. If it is the least priority, then we have to allocate a small weight for it. Therefore, like uh, like in that way, you can apply the weights for the given data, and thereafter we can calculate the weighted arithmetic mean using this equation. And the next thing I would like to tell you is the weighted or this weight may be applied for the cases in many methods would be there. Therefore, in simply we can say that the highest weight should be anyhow applied for the most important one, and the lowest weight has to be applied for the least important one. Once you after applying the weights, then you may get the values in this form. Now think about if this is your xi value and this is the weight that you are allocating. Therefore, it is quite like, now it is quite like a group set of data. Here, rather than using the frequency, we will have the weight. And here you may have, now think about we are considering the average marks for your gradings. Therefore, if I say that all the subjects have not same weightages, if all the subjects are not have the same weightages, then you have to apply the weightages here. It is quite like sometimes the subject may be really hard for students. Therefore, if a situation like that, then what we can do is, if a student score for the very hard subject, if that student get very good marks, then we can apply or we can allocate higher weight. It is because actually we may say that it is the normal method we are applying. We may say that okay, that student may be bright. Therefore, by thinking about those cases, we can apply the weights. But that is why I told you that the applying weightages may be vary in different cases. Therefore, as an example, I will use these three subjects and I will say statistics. These are the marks you have obtained for statistics, English, and mathematics. Therefore, now I will say that okay, the student has obtained statistics. It is just 70 marks, and for English, the student has obtained 90 marks. For mathematics, it is again around 80 marks. Now I say that I am saying that since statistics is the most important, we will say it like that. If you say that statistics is the most important, then we need to give the weightage for this, the highest weightage. Therefore, I can say, okay, if I use a scale, then I can say the weightage is 5. The weightage value is 5. Then we can say it is for the next one. The next one, it is the English value. For English, it is 90. Then I will say, okay, I will keep the weightage of this as 2. And for mathematics, I will say, okay, the weightage is 3. Therefore, now these are the observed values of x and w. W's are the values that we have allocated for weightages. And according to the situation, you can apply the weightages. Since I say that uh, stat is the most important, I have given high weightage, but I have considered English as the least important in this case. Therefore, I can say that weightage for English would be somewhat lower than other two subjects. Therefore, now you can use this equation to calculate the mean value. Therefore, same as previous. First of all, what you can do is you have to obtain the W times X column. Here, you have to obtain the values for W times X. In simply, we can say we can multiply these two values, 350, then 9 into 2, it is 180, and once you multiply this, it is 240. Thereafter, what you can do is you can get the summation. The summation here gives the value for summation of wy xi, and thereafter you have to get the summation of weightages. The summation of weightages, you will get it here, and you can apply this value for the value in the denominator. Therefore, you can say it is the value you are getting for summation of wy. Then we can say that we can use this equation simply to calculate the weighted arithmetic mean. So this is one another example I have taken. Here it is given as students' final grades in management, economics, statistics, and English. The marks that the student has obtained for these subjects were 82, 86, 90, and 70 respectively. And then they have considered about the credit values for these courses. Therefore, the credits for these courses, actually these credits can be now considered as the weightages given. Then weightages for these courses are 3, 5, 3, and 1. It means that here they have given the least weightage for English since it is one credited course, and now they have given the highest weightage for economics since it is the 5 credited course. According like that way, you can see how we can allocate the weightages. And Using the previous method, we can, using the thing that we have discussed previously, we can calculate the values. Therefore, now you may have the set of values for x. These are the values that we can have for x. Then if I write the values accordingly, so it is 82, 86, then it is 90, and as the last value it is given as 70. And according to the credit weight, they can say the weightage for this, then the value would be 3, 5, 3 and 1. Now what you can do is, first of all, you can get the multiplication of these two. It is w times x, and then you can simply take their summation. It is because to calculate the mean value, what you need is, you need the summation of wx. We need the summation of wx, and this is need to be divided by summation of w. Likewise, you can simply calculate the weighted arithmetic mean, and to denote the weighted arithmetic mean, we can use the notation x bar with this subscript w. This is the notation we are used to denote the weighted arithmetic mean, x bar with this subscript w. Next, we will consider about the combined arithmetic mean. If you are considering two or more related groups with known group means and the number of items, then we can apply this combined arithmetic mean. As an example, now we will consider if your school has two classes, you may have two classes, class A and class B. You may say that I am considering the marks for mathematics, then the marks obtained, or the average marks obtained from the class A student is 78, and the average marks obtained from the students in class B is it is 76. If I take it in this way, these are the average values obtained. Here I can say it is the value of the class A, mean value of now the 76 would be mean value of class, and I have included the number of students in class A. I will say there were 30 students, and in the class B, I say that there were 25 students. Now think about in a school for a particular grade, we may have two classes as A and B, and for the subject mathematics, they have identified average of 78 marks for among 30 students in class A, average as 76 for class B among these 25 students. Now I need to obtain what is the average mark of a student obtained in this grade. Now think about this may be in grade 10 in your school. For grade 10, we had two classes, and we have obtained these data. Now I just need to obtain what is the mean value for mathematics that the student has obtained in this grade 10. Now what we can do is, we can combine these two classes together. Therefore, the combined arithmetic mean can be used in such situation. Therefore, to calculate the combined arithmetic mean, what you can do is, you can just multiply the mean with the relevant sample size. In here, you have to multiply the number of students in the class A is 30, and the average that they have obtained is 78. This is the average that they have obtained, and then this has to be added to the value coming from class B. There were altogether 25 students, and the class average was 76. The class average was 76. Now what we can do is, now we have altogether considered these total marks. Here this would be the first part, would be actually total mark for class A students. This would be total mark for class B students. Therefore, now what I can consider is, now I have combined these two classes. Therefore, I can get the total number of students as 30 plus 25. Then the amount that you are getting at the numerator has to be now divided by the amount getting at the denominator. It is by 55. Then using this equation, you can get a value for, you can get a value for x bar. It is said to be the combined arithmetic mean. Therefore, in here you can see that if there are k number of samples or k number of groups here, you can obtain the combined arithmetic mean using this equation. The number of observation in the particular group has to be multiplied with the mean value for the particular group, and you may get k number of values totally. Since there were k number of groups, then you have to add their totals together and then divide it by the summation of observation in the each group. Then you have to take the summation of the observations that you can see in all k number of groups. That is how you can obtain this combined arithmetic mean. This is one example I have considered. There are two branches of company employing 180 people respectively. It means that if you consider a company, I will say here I am having one branch as A, another branch as B. Then I can see that in the first branch there are 100 people working in the branch A. In the branch B, 80 people are working there. And the arithmetic mean for the salary paid by these branches, I may consider this as thousands of value. 275,000 is maybe the monthly salary paid for a person in this branch A. Therefore, the average maybe I will take this as 275, and the average salary they are paying for a particular worker in the company B may be 225. But this may be two branches of a company. Therefore, if I just need to take what is the average salary paid by the company for a worker, then it means that we have to combine these two branches together, and thereafter we need to calculate the arithmetic mean. Therefore, first of all, we need to multiply the number of observation. Here we are having 100 workers, and then this has to be multiplied with the mean value. It is now 275 rupees. Then this is need to be added to 80 into 225. It is the total that they are giving for salaries in the branch B. And now if you have combined the branches together, all together you can see that there are now 180 people. It is now 100 plus 80 are there. Likewise, you can get the as the what is the value for this x bar. Therefore, you can simply do this calculation to obtain the combined arithmetic mean for this company. This is how we are using the calculation of combined arithmetic mean for a practical situation. The next type of mean that we are going to consider is the geometric mean. When we are considering the geometric mean, it is said to be the nth root of the product of n number of items. Now, as an example, if you consider about n number, here you can see that here we are having n number of observations. Therefore, what we can do as the geometric mean is, first of all, you have to multiply all the n numbers to n number of observations together, and then thereafter you have to obtain the nth root. Therefore, you can write it in this way also. First of all, you have to multiply this x1 into x2 up to xn. You have to multiply the values together, and then you can consider the 1 over nth power. It is same as this nth root. Therefore, this is an example for this. Here, the prices of commodity increased by 30%. From 97 to 98, and 20% from 1998 to 99, and then 5% from 1999 to 2000. Therefore, you need the yearly average percentage increase from 1997 to 2000. Here what we need is, here it is quite like a growth. It means that in 1 year it is 30%. Therefore, if you consider for this period, here we can simply say it is need to be obtained geometric mean for these price of a commodity. Then what we can do is, here we can say Here we need to identify these percentages, therefore it is 30%. Then 30% has to be multiplied with the 20% since it is for the next year, and then this has to be multiplied with 5 since it is the value that we have observed for third year. Then once you multiply this quantity, then you have to consider the third root of this. Then if you do this calculation, then you need to get the third root of 3000. If you calculate the third root of 3000, then you can get the value for this would be equal to, if you consider the third root, then uh, value would be around 14.42 with an accuracy to 2 decimal place, and this would be the average price increase that we can observe from the year to 1997 to 2000. Therefore, this is how we are applying the geometric mean. And another example, the second example says that it directly asks us to calculate the geometric mean for the series 2, 4, and 8. Here what we can do is we have to multiply 2 into 4 into 8, and then you have to consider the third root for this. Once you perform the multiplication, you will get this as 64, and then thereafter you need to take the third root of 64, which ends up the value as plus 4. Therefore, this is how you are using the geometric mean for calculation. Then the next important thing is mode. Mode is another method that we are considering. So far we have discussed the things related to mean. Now we will pay our attention towards how we can deal with mode. Mode is said to be the most common item of a series. It is said to be a most common item of series. Therefore, if the data is given as individual, then you may have the values in this form. You may have value as 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If this is the set of values, you can see here, you can say that mode of this data set is equal to 2. It is because 2 is I will write it. Mode is equal to 2. It is because now you can see that 2 appears in this data set for 3 number of times, and it is the maximally available, the highest frequency value that you can see in this data set. Therefore, mode of this data set is now equal to 2. And if a data set just consists with a single mode, we are saying such data set as a unimodal data. And if it is if you are having two modes, it is like this. Now think about, you may have 3 2s in this data set as well as 1 3, then another set of values in here. Now you can see that the mode of this data set, you can see the highest frequencies are appeared for this value 2 as well as value 4. Now you can say that here we can have two modes for this set of data. Therefore, if you are having a case like this, then we are saying this as a bimodal data set. Therefore, first one unimodal data set, since it has a one mode, one value for mode. Since we are having two values for mode, it is bimodal data set. And now another case, if you are thinking about this case, now think about 1 1, then 2 and 2, then 3 and 3, 4, 5 and 6. In this case, you can identify mode as 1 as well as 2 as well as 3. Now you can see that it is more than 2. Therefore, if there are existing more than 2 modes for a given data set, we can say it as a multimodal data set. Therefore, here unimodal, bimodal, and multimodal. Therefore, according to the number of values that you can identify as the mode, you can say whether it is unimodal, bimodal, or multimodal data set. If you are having a unimodal data set, in generally you will get exactly one peak in the data set. If you have the observe the x values in the x-axis and frequencies in the y-axis. If you are having one value in frequency in x, x, x means the observed value, and the frequency values in the y-axis. You may have this as the graphical method for a distribution having one mode. Therefore, this is actually said to be graph of a unimodal dataset. And sometimes you may be have more than two modes. Therefore, in such situation, you can say that here you are having one mode here, and here you may have another mode. Therefore, in this situation, you can say it is bimodal. It is because here you need to have these two frequency values same together. Therefore, if you are having equal frequency with the highest value, then once we have fitted this x versus this frequency value, then you may say this is the uh, graph of a bimodal data set. And if it comes to multimodal, then there may be several peaks. There will be several peaks that we can that we can see in the plot. It is quite like having like this. In here you can say that since it is more than two, you may say that this is a multimodal data set or multimodal distribution. Therefore, now you can see that in three places you had the highest frequencies. Therefore, once you plot x versus f, then you can say this is the graph of multimodal data or multimodal distribution. And so far we have discussed this as it is for individual data, the most common value that we can see inside a set of data, most common value for a series. But here it may say is that one or more modes may be there. And now we will focus on how to calculate the mode value for a set of group data. This is how we are going to calculate the mode for a set of group data. To calculate the mode value for set of group data, you can use this equation. The equation used to calculate the mode is this, and if you go through the terms here, MO denotes the value that we are obtaining for mode, and here we will say this as L is the boundary of the module class. F1 is the frequency of the module class. F0 is the frequency of the class preceding the module class, and F2 is the frequency of the class succeeding the module class, where C is the width of the module class. These are the interpretations that we are used for the terms inside this equation, and you can use this equation to calculate the mode of a group data set. Now we will see how we can apply this. In the first one, what you can see is here you can see that you are asked to obtain the mode for this data set. Here it is given as the individual data. For this case, what you can see here is you are having 10 individual values, and now if you find out the frequencies of these cases, you can see 851. Then next one is 2, and here you can see that 850 appears for 3 times. Then if it is 750, it is for 1 time. It is for 1 time. Then 600, again this appears for 2 times. 600 2 times, and 825, it is again 1 time. Then this 850 already considered. Then 725, it is again 1 time. Then these two values already considered. Then 6 and 40, 1 time, and 530, it is also again 1 time. Now you can see that 850 has appeared for 3 times. Therefore, you can say the mode of the this income is 850. It is because you can say 850 as the value which appears mostly in this data set. In the second one, you can see that here you are asked to calculate the model value for the following distribution. Here you can see that they have given the class intervals, and um, if you need to use the if you use to need if you need to use the equation, then what are the things that you need to do is you need to have the values for these terms. You need to get a value for L, you need to get a value for F1, if not 2 times F1, F again F0 and F2, then C, it is the width of the class. Here you can see that we need to identify the class boundaries first. Therefore, if this data set is given, here you can see it is just the class intervals only. Therefore, as the first case, what you need to do is we need to identify the class boundary, but it is not needed to identify the class boundaries of all the classes. You need just to identify the lower class boundary of the module class. Therefore, as the first step of this calculation, first of all, I will identify the value for the module class. Therefore, the module class can be just seen by the frequency. Therefore, the class containing the highest frequency, or the class with highest frequency, will be considered as the module class. Therefore, here you can see that this would be the module class. This can be considered as the module class. Now this is the module class that we are considering, and based on this module class we can say that these are the values that, based on this module class, we have to identify the values of F0, F1, F2 and L as well as C. Therefore, first of all, I will try to do the calculation based on the details that we are having. Here we are having the frequency of the module class. Frequency of the module class was denoted using the notation F0. Therefore, you can say that value of F0 is equal to 25. Then F1 denotes the frequency of the class preceding module class. It means that a class which is coming prior to module class. Therefore, you can see the frequency of the class preceding to the module class. You can have it as value as 15. It is because you can see value 15 appears prior to this 25. In the next case, the next value you need to identify is F2. It is the frequency of the class preceding module class. Frequency of the class preceding module class. Therefore, if you identify that value, it is now equal to 30. These are the frequencies that we are obtaining: 25, 15 and 30. So far we have identified these three values, but for this unit we have calculated F1, F0 and F2 only. But we need the value for L as well as for C. To identify the here we just need to identify the class boundaries. For this class only, it is quite enough for the calculation. Here if you see about these two, the interval between these two, then considering this, we can simply take the class limit, or the lower class limit for this is 79.5. You can use the theories that we have discussed in the previous session to identify the lower class boundary, and then the upper class boundary would be equal to 89.5. We will need the lower and upper bound of this class interval. It is because we need the value for class interval also. Since we need the value for class width, not for the interval, class width, we need the value. Therefore, we need to identify the lower bound as well as the upper bound. Therefore, now what we can do is we can identify the value for L. It is the lower boundary value, or the lower bound value of the module class. Now you can see that L is equal to 79.5. Then the next value that we can need to identify is value C. It is the width of the class. Width of the class can be easily identified just by taking the difference of these two values. Therefore, you can see that value of C is now equal to 10. Now we can perform the calculation. The equation that we are used to calculate mod was mod equals to lower bound of the module class, then this plus how we have defined. It is f1 minus f0 divided by 2 times f1 minus f0 minus f2. Therefore, if you write it here, L plus f1 minus f0, then this has to be divided by 2 times f1 minus f0 minus f2, and this part has to be now multiplied with c. This is the part that we need to multiply with the value c. Now if you do the substitution, then you will get the values for L is 79.5, value is 79.5, then this has to be added to f1 minus f0. F1 is 15 minus f0. F1 minus f0, value of f0 is 25. Then this has to be divided by 2 times f1. F1 multiplied by 2, value is now equal to 30. Then minus f0 is 25. Then this minus uh, f2 is 30. F2 is 30. Then we can see that we have to multiply this with c to obtain the answer. Therefore, using this equation, you can simply obtain a value for mode. Therefore, you can use the equation to obtain the value of mode. You have to just perform this calculation, and then you can simply identify a value. Therefore, if we perform in here, you can say value of c is equal to 10. If you perform this calculation now, you may get it as you have to perform the calculation to obtain the values. Therefore, using the simple calculation, you can easily obtain a value for this. Therefore, um, these are the values you are using, and you can do this calculation. Um, and this is the equation, and this is the method that we are used for the calculation. And now if you go for the next part, if you go to for the next part, then we can see for the median is the next measure of central tendency that we are considering. When we are going to identify the median value, the median value can be considered as the middle value. Middle value, we are identifying the median as the middle value once the data set is arranged in the ordered as the ordered way of magnitude. It is quite like as in the increasing way or the decreasing way, we can rearrange the data set. Once we rearrange the data set in a proper way, in an arranged ordered way, then we can identify the median value as the middle value of the given data set. To identify the median value for individual data, to identify median value for the individual data, the position of the middle value can be obtained simply using the n plus 1 divided by 2. Using this equation, you can identify the position of the median, and then you have to obtain the magnitude of the value at this position. Therefore, you can use the equation just to identify the position of the median only. Then after identifying the position, you need to obtain the size of the value at the obtained position. Therefore, as an example, here you can see that it is for the odd numbers of observation. Now you can see there are altogether 7 observations. There are altogether 7 observations. N is equal to 7. Therefore, it has to add 1, then divide by 2. Therefore, now you can see that at the fourth place, the fourth value is the value that you are observing as middle. Therefore, the value at the fourth place is the value that you are observing as the median value. Then the median value would be, now once it is arranged, then the fourth value can be directly identified as the median. Therefore, the median value for this would be equal to 29. It is not the fourth. Fourth is the position only. The magnitude of the value at the fourth position is now equal to 29. Therefore, you are saying the median value is equal to 29 for this set of data. And if you come to the second set of value, now here you can see that there are altogether 8 values. Even though we are having 8 values as an even number, you can apply the same equation in here. What we are going to do is, first of all, you identify the place where, or the position of the median value. To identify the position of median value, you can use the equation. Once you do the substitution, it is 8 plus 1, then divide by 2. 8 plus 1 is 9, divide by 2 is 4.5. Therefore, you can see that at the place of 4.5, you are having the median. It is the position of the median. Then at this position, we need to identify what is the value at this position. Therefore, to identify the median value, what you can do is, now you need to take the value at 4.5. But if you see about this data set, you can see that there are values. There is no any half point values. Therefore, you can see these are the values that you have obtained as the fourth value and fifth value. But you can see that median value is now in between these 2 points. Therefore, it is exactly the middle of these 2 points. It is 4.5. Therefore, what we can do is, we can simply add the fourth value and fifth value together. Therefore, to identify the median, since the value is 4.5, we need to add the value at the fourth place and the value at the fifth place, and then this has to be divided by 2. Then this gives the successful answer for the median value, which is now equal to 29.5. This is how we are obtaining the median values. And if you come for the group set of data, if you come for the group set of data, then you cannot directly apply this equation to identify the median value. But still, you can use this equation, this replacing by n divide by 2. You can use this to identify the median class only. Therefore, when you are using the group set of data, we can use the equation n divided by 2. No need to use n plus 1 divided by 2. N divided by 2 can be used to identify the median class, and after identifying the median class, then we can apply this equation to calculate median. We can apply this equation to calculate the median value. Therefore, the equation we are using here is median, and we are using the notation m subscript d to denote the median value, and this can be obtained using L plus n divided by 2 minus capital F M E. Capital F subscript M E divided by simple Fm multiplied with C. Now, if you go through what is denoted by these letters or these notations, MD stands for median, while L stands for the lower boundary of the median class. Lower boundary of the median class, and simple FM. Here you can see that the notation simple FM. Simple FM is the frequency of the median class. FM is the frequency of the median class, and capital FME is the capital F is used to denote the cumulative frequency in generally. Therefore, FME is the cumulative frequency of the class preceding median class. Cumulative frequency of the class preceding the median class, and C stands for the class width of the median class. Then Not as the previous ones. Here we need the class boundaries, and then we need the frequencies, as well as we need the cumulative frequencies. Therefore, we have to identify frequencies. If the frequencies are given, then we need to identify the cumulative frequencies as well, for if you are dealing with the group set of data to identify the median value. These are some examples related with median, and if you go through the first example, the first example is for individual values. Here these are the values given for us, but you cannot directly apply the concepts of median. You cannot directly apply this n1 n plus 1 divided by 2 position, size of the value at this position. You cannot directly apply this. It is because this data set is not in an ordered way. Therefore, first of all, we need to rearrange this in the ordered way. Therefore, 18 is the least value you can see here. Then the next highest value that you can see is 28. Then next highest value that you can see is 32. Likewise, if you do the calculation, you rearrange the data set, then next value will be 45, then 57, 58, and 65. 10, 65. Therefore, now you can see this is the ordered set of values for the given initially given values. Now you can apply this n1 plus n plus 1 divided by 2 equation to identify the position. Now you can see that there are altogether 7 values here. Therefore, 7 plus 1 divided by 2 gives the value as the fourth place. Therefore, you have to identify the value at the fourth place. If you count these values, then you can say that 45 is the median value. Now you can say that 45 is the median value for the given data set. Now in the second data set also, you can apply the same form. And first of all, before applying the equation, you need to rearrange the data set. Therefore, if you rearrange it, you can get the 38 as the first value, then 42 is the next highest value. Then we can see that 57 is the next highest. Then 58 is the next highest value that you can see here. Then value is 61. Thereafter 65 is here. Then 66 is here, and then 72 is here. If you count the number of observations that you can see here, it is altogether 8 observations you can see. Therefore, the equation can be used 8 plus 1 divided by 2. It is 9 divided by 2 gives the value as the position is 4.5. Therefore, you cannot see a value at a 4.4 position. Therefore, you need to identify the fourth value and fifth value. Fourth value is 58, fifth value is 61. Now, what you need to do is you need to take the average of these two velocities, 58 plus 61, and this has to be divided by 2. You have to add 58 and 61 together, and once you divide it by 2, then you can identify the answer as 59.5. You can identify the value as 59.5. Then this is how we are dealing with median if it is given that the data set has the individual values. And now we will see what we can do if it is given as a set of data. It is quite given as a group set of data. First of all, we need to write these values according to a table. Therefore, if the values are given as a table, then we can write it in the other way around. It is quite easy for calculation for us. Then if you write down the data, here you may have the marks, and then you may have the frequencies in the next column. These are the values used for simple f, and I need to calculate the capital F values also. Then the marks can be now written in 1024, then 2539. Next one is 4054. Thereafter 5569, then 70 and 74, then 85 and 100. Now what we need to do first is we need to identify these frequencies. The frequencies are given as 6, then 20, then next value is 44, then value is 26, value is 3, and value is 1. Now, prior to identification of the median classes, it is needed to identify the cumulative frequency. It will help full for identification of the median class easily. Therefore, here we will take it as 6, then value is 26, then 26 plus we need this 44, then this gives the answer as 70, then you have to add 26, then it will be 96, then 99, and at last you will get plus 1. You see the value as 100. Therefore, if you see the total also, you may get the value as 100. Now what you need to do is, as the first step, you need to identify the median class. Median class can be obtained using n divided by 2. In here you can see that altogether we had 100 number of observation, and then it has to be divided by 2. 100 divided by 2 gives you the value as 50. This is the position we have obtained. Now you can see, now we have to see where is our 50th value. You can see that first 6 value is in here, up to 26th value you can see in this class, and up to 70th value, not 70 values included in this class. Therefore, if you consider the first 70 values, then among the first 70, 44 is included in this class. Therefore, now you can see that since 50 is included in this class, 50th observation is now included in this class since it is below the value 70. Therefore, you can say this is the median class that we can identify for this. Then this would be the median class. Now we can use this median class values to use median class to identify the values that we need for calculation. Then if you see about this equation, if you see about the equation in the previous slide, n divided by 2 is needed, then FME is needed, and capital FME is needed. Now we have already identified the value for n divided by 2, and we need to identify a frequency of the median class as well as the cumulative frequency denoted by capital F, a class preceding the median class. Therefore, if you identify these two values, then we can easily see them in this table. Frequency of the median class can be now identified as 44. This is the frequency of the median class, and then the cumulative frequency of the class preceding median class. This is the cumulative frequency that we can identify as the class preceding median class. Class prior to this, it is now 26. It is always we have to use the cumulative frequency. Then the next values we need is the lower boundary and the class width. Those are the things that we need. Therefore, if you go through this example, then you can simply identify the class interval for this. Here you can see, if you consider about this median class, then you can obtain the class boundaries for the median class as 39.5. 39.5 would be here, and then here you can say the upper bound would be 54.5. 54.5. Now what you can do is you can do the substitution after identifying the appropriate values. Now once you identify the value of L, it is now equal to 39.5. It is now equal to 39.5, and the median can be, the width can be obtained as the difference of these two class boundaries. If it is 54.5 and 54.5 minus 39.5, then this gives the class width as 50. Now you can use these values for substitution. Then the substitution gives you in these values. Then value of L is 39.5. Then this class n divided by 2 we have already identified. N divided by 2, 100 divided by 2, the value was 50. And then subtract. What we need to subtract is the cumulative frequency of the class preceding the median class. Therefore value is now equal to 26. Then this has to be divided by simple fn. The fn is now equal to 44. It is the frequency of the median class, and then we have to multiply this with the class width of the median class. Therefore, you can perform this calculation to obtain a value for the median. Therefore, you can perform the calculation, and you can simply obtain an answer for this median class. Therefore, now once you do the calculation, you can get this value as 47.68. Value is 47.68. Therefore, now you can see that median is included in the identified class. At the very beginning, we have just identified the class only. Now you have clearly identified what is the median value, the exact median value for this data distribution. And the next next set of values that we are considering for central tendency is quartile. Quartile is another method that we can use to identify the position of a data set. And when we are going to identify the quartiles here, when we discuss about the median, median was identified as the middle value. Therefore, in simply we can say that using the median, we can divide the data set into two equal parts. Therefore, we can say the median divides the data set into two equal parts. And now if you come to the concepts of quartiles, now quartiles are also do the same thing, but here we can say that the quartiles divide a data set into four equal parts. Therefore, if you are considering about these quartiles, you can see that here we may have, if I write the quartiles here using different color, we can say if it is the data set, now you can say this is the first quartile, and this may be the third quartile, and the median value can be considered as the second quartile. It is because here using this point we can divide the data set into two equal parts. Therefore, now we have identified 1, 2, 3 and 4 equal parts. Therefore, using quartiles, we can divide the data set into 4 equal parts. Then when we are going to use the quartiles here, I told you that we can divide the data set into 4 equal parts, and therefore we can identify 3 values for quartiles. We can identify 3 values for quartiles: first quartile, second quartile and third quartile. First quartile is meant to be the lower quartile, and second quartile is said to be the middle quartile, or in simply second quartile is always equal to the median value. This is equal to the Q2 is always equal to the median value, and third quartile is said to be the upper quartile. We are normally saying lower and upper. It is because in using the first quartile, we can divide the lower part of this data set into two equal parts. We are saying third quartile as the upper quartile. It is because using third quartile, we can divide the upper part of this data set into two parts. Therefore, when you are using the quartiles also, you have to use an ordered data series. Ordered data series has to be used if we are dealing with the quartiles. Therefore, here this is an example for it. Here you can see now our data set can be equally divided into four parts using this Q1 and then using Q2 and using Q3. Now if you see about this division, now you can see that the first 25% of this data set is below the first quartile and 50% of this data below the second quartile and 75% of data below the third quartile once we have a ordered data set. This is the fundamental concept regarding the quartiles, and now we will look about how we can compute the quartiles for individual data. When we are calculating the median position was obtained using n plus 1 divided by 2. The median position was obtained using n plus 1 divided by 2. It is for median. This position of median. When we need to identify the quartiles also, same as previous, first of all, we need to rearrange the data in the ordered way. After that, what we need to do is we need to identify the positions for first, second, and third quartiles. We need to identify positions of first, second, and third quartile. Thereafter, we can easily identify the values at identified positions. Therefore, these are the equations that we can use for individual data. Since we are dividing the data set into four equal parts using quartiles, we can use this equation to identify the position of the quartiles. Therefore, the position of the first quartile can be obtained using n plus 1 divided by 4. Then position of the second quartile, this should be changed as second. The position of second quartile can be obtained using the size of the observation appeared at the 2 times this quantity. Is once we are having it as n plus 1, it is for the first one, n plus 1 divided by 4, it is for Q1, and for Q2 this quantity, the same quantity has to be now multiplied with 2, and for the third quartile the same quantity has to be multiplied with 3. That is how we are obtaining the position of first, second, and third quartile. In here, what you have to keep in your mind is before going to identify the size of the value or the magnitude of the value at this position, you have to rearrange the data set in ordered way. After rearranging the data in ordered way, then you can use these positions to identify the values. This is one example that we can consider. Here we are having individual data, and if you see about this data set, you can see that there are altogether 11 values appeared in this data set. Therefore, first we will see what we can do for this data set. And also one another thing that we can see here is, here we can see that there are the data set is in the ordered way. Therefore, no need to arrange them in the ordered manner again. Therefore, first of all, we need to identify the position of Q1, position of Q2, and position of Q3, position of Q1, 2, and 3. Then to identify the position of Q1, we have to use the equation n plus 1 divided by 2, 1 divided by 4. Now you can see that value is 11. Altogether, we are having 11 values. Therefore, the position of the first quartile can be obtained using 11 plus 1 divided by 4. The value is now equal to 3. 11 plus 1 divided by 4, value is equal to 3. Then you can say that the first position is 3. The value at the third position would be considered as first quartile. Then to identify the second quartile, what we have to do is, in simply it is 2 times this quantity. Therefore, 3 has to be multiplied by 2. Therefore, the value would be 6. Therefore, the value at the sixth position will be considered as the second quartile. And to identify the third quartile, what we need to do is it is actually 3 times this quantity. Therefore, you will get this value as 9. Now you can see that we have already identified the positions. Therefore, we need to now obtain the values at these positions. Therefore, now you can see one value is 6. Then at the sixth position, you can see that value is 12. And at the ninth position, you can see value is 18. Therefore, 6 would be the first quartile of this data set. 6, 6 would be the first quartile, and 12 would be the second quartile, and 18 would be the third quartile. This is how you are obtaining the value. These are the values that you are obtaining. And in the second example, it is given as to find the first, second, and third quartiles. Here it is quite given as a group distribution. It is a frequency distribution. Here you can see that the values of x are given. Here it is not actually a group data. It is a frequency distribution. For a single value of x, we have identified values of x. Therefore, for the easiness of calculation, we will write it in the vertical manner. Therefore, size of Q can be considered as x, and then thereafter we can identify the frequency values. And when we are dealing with these quartiles, it is better to use the cumulative frequency. It is because this helps us is much more to identify the relative position. Therefore, you can see that values for x is now equal to 4, 4.5, next value is 5, 5.5, then value is 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, and 8. These are the values that we can see in the data set, and the frequencies are 10, 18, 22, 25, and the values we have obtained here as 40, 15, 10, 8, 10, 7. These are the values that you can see in this data set. As soon as you got these values, first of all, what you need to do is you need to obtain the cumulative frequencies. Therefore, in the next page, you may get 28, then 22, it should be correct as 28, then this is now equal to 50, then next value would be 75, 115, 130, 140, 148, and 155. Therefore, altogether, now you can see that there are 155 observations included in this dataset. Since this is the dataset that we are having, here what we need to do is we can simply use the equations that we have used so far. Here you can see it is n plus 1 divided by 4. N is now equal to 155. Then this has to be added to 1 and then divide by 4. Altogether we are having 156. Then divide it by 4 gives the value as 39. Therefore, at the position of first quartile, second and third can be obtained. The position of first quartile would be 39, and the 2 times of this gives the position of second quartile, and 3 times of this gives you the position of third quartile. It is 100. These are the values you have obtained. But now what you have to do is you have to refer this frequency, cumulative frequencies to identify the values in these positions. It means that first 10 values is as 4. Then up to 28 values, then the balance covers by 4.5. Then after 28, up to 50 values covers by size 5. Likewise, you may have the cumulative frequencies. Then first you need to identify the value at 39. The point 39, what is the position 39? It is beyond 28, therefore 39 belongs to this class. Therefore, you can say that size 5 is the first quartile of this data set, and second quartile is 78. 78 belongs to the class starting from the value 6. It is because it is beyond 75. 78 is beyond 75, therefore it is below 115. Therefore size 6 is for the uh, this median or the second quartile. Simply we can say third quartile is, it is for third quartile is the position is 117. It is beyond 115 but less than 130. Therefore we can say this is equal to this 6.5 is equal to the third quartile. Third quartile is now equal to 6.5. These are the values that you are obtaining if you are having if you need to obtain the quartiles of a frequency distribution. And if it is given for the group data, then you can use this equation. The group data, for the group data, we can use this equation to calculate the quartiles. Therefore, if you are dealing with the group data, here also first of all we need to calculate the cumulative frequencies. Then for the ith quartile, each ith quartile, we need to apply this equation to obtain the quartile. Here we are directly obtaining the quartile value, not the position, and therefore you can apply this equation to apply this equation recursively 3 times to obtain the first, second, and third quartiles. Therefore, once I equals 1, then it gives the value for first quartile. I equals 2, it is for second quartiles. I equals 3, it is for third quartiles. Likewise, you may be able to identify the values of quartiles using this equation. Therefore, for group set of data, you may use this. And if I go through these terms, Qi is meant to be the ith quartile, and LQi is the lower boundary of the ith quartile class. Simple FQi is the frequency of the ith quartile class. Capital FQi is the cumulative frequency of the class preceding ith quartile class, and CQi is the class interval of ith quartile class. Therefore, if you are asked to obtain the quartiles for a group set of data, then you can apply this equation to obtain the quartile. And this is one set of data given for quartiles. Then we can apply this equations this equation to identify the quartiles of this data set. Now we will consider about this data set. It is now 0 to 9, 10 to 19. Now you can see that class limits are given. Therefore, what we need to do is first we need to rewrite this data, which is easy for the calculation. Then here values of x would be there. Then we need to write the second column for frequency, and we need to obtain the third column for cumulative frequencies. Then we can see the value 0, 9, then 10 to 12 is here, 10 to 19 is here, then 22, 29, 30, 39, 40 to 54, unequal class widths are here. then 55 to 69, thereafter 70, 84 is here, and thereafter 85 and above. Therefore, these are the classes that we can see, and if you write the frequencies accordingly, values are 12, 15, 25, 32, 72, 52, 13, and now for the set of values, what we need to do is we need to identify the cumulative frequencies. Therefore, for the first value, you can see the value is 12, and if you add 15, then you will get it as 27. Then you have to add 25, which gives the value as 52. Then you have to add 32 to just get next cumulative frequency. It is equal to 84. Then the next frequency is 72. It is 156. Then 52 is need to add here, 208. Then 13 is need to add, 221, and then 10 is need to add here, it is 231. Therefore, this is the set of values that we have obtained. And when you use this equation to identify the values, here you can see that there is a term called I times n divided by 4. Therefore, you can easily use this to identify the ith quartile class. Therefore, using this I times n divided by 4, you can identify the ith quartile class. Therefore, we can see that altogether there are 231 observations. Altogether, there are now 231 observations. Therefore, first of all, I will perform this calculation for I equals 1. I will do the calculation for I equals 1. Then I need to obtain value for n divided by 4. It is I times n divided by 4 means 1 times n divided by 4. It is now 231 divided by 4, which gives the value as 57.75. 57.75. This is the value I am obtaining for n divided by 4. Then then I have to identify what is the class which contains this observation. In here you can see that here we are having 57.75, but once you come to this, you can see that the class from 30 to 39 contains this. It is because 57.75 is beyond the 52. Therefore, we can see that this is the first quartile class. This can be said to be the class for first quartile. It is for the class for first quartile. Then what you need to do is you need to identify the values. The values that you need to identify for calculation are, now you can see that these are the values we need to identify: lower bound, then frequency, cumulative frequency of proceeding, and then class width. Therefore, now we will identify these values. Then the cumulative frequency value, the frequency value, simple left, it is now equal to 32. Then cumulative frequency value which is proceeding to this, I will use capital F only. Then cumulative frequency is now equal to 52, and then a lower bound of this class, it is once we do the calculation, it could be obtained as 29.5. And then the upper bound of the class width of this class, you can just take the difference between lower and upper boundaries. Then it is now equal to C equals 10. Therefore, these are the values that we need to apply for to obtain the value for first quartile. Then the suitable substitution will gives you the answer for first quartile. Therefore, you have to use this equation. If I perform the calculation, I can obtain these values. If I perform the calculation for I equals 1, the lower boundary was 29.5, and this has to be added to I times n divided by 4. I is 1, 1 times n divided by 4 was obtained as 57.75. The value was 57.75. Then we need to subtract the capital FQI. It is the cumulative frequency of the class preceding quartile class. It is 52, obtained as 52. Then we need to divide this by frequency of the quartile class, I quartile, the class frequency was 32. Then this has to be multiplied with 10. This has to be multiplied with 10. And if you perform the calculation, then you can see that the answer obtaining for this would be equal to 31.29. 31.29. Therefore, this can be said as the first quarter. This is said to be the first quarter for this data set. Therefore, if this is the data set given, then you can identify the first quartile in this form. Now, if we redo the calculation for the second quartile, in simply what we can do is, now we have to substitute I equals 2 in this place, in the relevant places. Therefore, by first of all, I need to obtain the values for this I times n divided by 4. I times n divided by 4. This for this I need to obtain values. It is actually 2 times n divided by 4. I means now equal to I equals to 2. Therefore, if I write I equals 2 here, the values for I equals 2, then I need to get value for 2 times n divided by 4. 2 times n divided by 4, then I will get it as 57.75 multiplied by 2 gives you the value as 115.5. Here I am getting value as 115.5. Then I need to, after this, I need to identify what is the frequency, the class containing this value. Now you can see that 115.5 is beyond this class 84, but it is actually below this 156. Therefore, I can say this as my quartile class. Therefore, I can say this as my quartile. The second quartile contains in this class. Since the position of the second quartile is 115.5. Now I need to identify the values which is needed for calculation. I need to identify simple F value. Now you have identified F as 72. Then capital F is needed. It is the cumulative frequency of the class preceding this class. It is equal to 84. Then we need to get the lower boundary here also. Lower boundary of this class is now 39.5. 39.5, and we need to get the value of C. Therefore, when we are calculating C here, C is needed to be calculated for the quartile class. Therefore, upper boundary of this quartile class is 54.5 and lower bound will be now 39.5. Once you perform the calculation, now you can see value for C is equal to 15. Now you have to substitute these values in the equation that we have obtained. Therefore, the successive substitution gives you the final answer in this form. The lower value of the second quartile class is 39.5. Then you have to add these two quantities. Here it is 115.5. is minus the FQY, it is the cumulative frequency, it is 84. Then this has to be divided by the frequency, it is now equal to 72. Then this has to be multiplied with the class width. Class width is equal to 15. And once you perform the calculation, then you can easily obtain the value. Here you can see that the obtained value for this calculation would be 46.06. This is the value that you can obtain for second quartile. This is the value for second quartile. Therefore, now you can try for the third quartile using the value of I equals 3. Therefore, you can try for value I equals 3, do the substitution by substituting value of I equals 3, and then using this calculation, you can obtain a value for third quarter. What is the value of third quarter? Simply you can do this calculation. And this is all I need to discuss for this session, and thank you all for participating with this session.